Really? You can do it. I'll see.
What is that? What am I defining? Working really hard to prevent movement. What's the stability? Fantastic. So, when you guys hear about core stability, you guys have heard that term before? That is doing a lot of work, working really hard to do nothing. Okay, so work by definition is force times distance, right? How heavy was it, how far did you move it? That's how much work you did. But, there. Oh, yeah. Simple. All right. Point at swap right there. Okay? Don't move. All right, so don't move. Don't move. Whatever you don't move. Don't move. Don't move. I can't measure with distance and force here how much work she's doing. Are you working hard? Yeah. But what we're doing here is we're preventing movement. So it's a lot of work in order to do nothing. When you guys are doing kettlebell swings and you're hearing me say keep your chest up, you have a lot of force running through your spine, really begging it to bend. Okay? It wants to crack, it wants to break somewhere in here and have some bend. You're going to work really hard on not letting that happen. Keeping the chest taller, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, excellent. So I want this to not move. I don't want any motion here, but I want the hip and the knee to move. Okay, so this is first and foremost, this is what we're working on more than anything else, is keeping that spine in one, not necessarily a straight line, because we've got a good lumbar curve here, but motions. Get a good position and keep it in one spot. Cool? All right, next one, done. All right, okay. Next, we have two major joints that are working, the hip joint and the knee joint. Which one of these two joints is more powerful? Why? It is bigger. What else? We work from, we say C to E or core to extremity. All motions should start in the middle and work their way out. Okay? This is much closer to the middle. Also, if we keep that kettlebell above the knee, we're keeping the load much closer to the joint that is doing most of the work. Okay? You understand how that works? So, go ahead and start doing some swings for me. What we're looking for is, I never really want that kettlebell to get below the knee. Okay? And in order to make that happen, keep swinging. I want to have less knee bend and a little bit more hip flexion. See how that is? Now I can change this. Now I just added a lot more knee. Do that as the swing she was doing earlier. Watch the difference in this motion. This is the swing she was giving me during the workout. Turn sideways so they can see it. There you go. Yeah, she's got to do it with 75 swings. Okay? So, see the big knee bend, swing, now give me less knee, more hip. And snap the hip forward. Shoot tall, right. Okay? One of them is more work, one of them is less work. If you're trying to win, love it. So, what we're trying to do is keep that kettlebell, and by the way, it should be in a straight line. The bottom of this kettlebell should be in a straight line with your arm the entire time. These are just cables with a kettlebell attached to it. The motion is happening from the hip, and we're just letting this stuff just ride. I'm not doing anything with my arm. I'm just snapping with my hip and letting it come up. If you start doing this with the arm, that is hard work. I'm going to do it without the hip. Okay, use the hip. Just keep your shoulder girdle still and let the arm just swing. Okay. Next, thrusters. I don't know what thrusters. When we're doing our squats for our thrusters, the smarter you guys are, the better you're going to be at this stuff, the more you'll appreciate the good coaching when you hear it. But I was watching some of the knees buckle in slightly on our thrusters. Any squat that we do, what we're going to try to do is get our femur pointed the same direction as our toe. So if you choose to have toes that are way out here, then you're going to have some pretty wide femurs, right? You're going to have to get that, really have a loose groin. Keep it a little bit straighter, push the knees out, you get a much better position down here. Okay? And wiggle into these. This is your stretching before the workout starts, right? Just getting into these positions. What's going to mess this up? Ankle flexibility, hip flexibility, and really a lot of torso flexibility as well when you start getting into this position too much. Right? So we want to just keep that chest up, same thing. But when you guys have either too much weight or you start to get exhausted, that's when I, as a coach, can look at you and start saying, this is where the weak link in the chain is. Okay, so if you're doing a motion correctly, and you start finding that this is happening to you, okay? First of all, you're not even going to notice because you're exhausted and you can't see straight, but we're watching you and we can see that it's happening. It's going down, getting into this position a little bit, okay? So all that is at that load or at that exhaustion level, you're starting to break. You're breaking at that torso, so you're losing core stability. And anytime the weight goes forward, what happens? Yeah, you're going to go forward, but that weight's going to get heavier for you to move. Okay? If I hold those dumbbells way up here, that's hard work. If I keep them really close to my heels, much easier to do. Okay? So any deviation away from my center, my base, that load's going to get heavier and heavier and heavier, and it's going to be even harder to keep yourself in a straight line. So, if you have to reduce the weight, do so. If you have to reduce the number of reps, do so. If you have to put it down and rest for a second so that you go back to doing it really well, do so. Mechanics are always going to be more important than the speed of your work or the load that you're trying to move. If you can keep the mechanics really good, you're going to be in way better shape. Okay, so those are two of the moves that we did. Sit-ups, yeah, we can get into a sit-up and how to do it a little bit better. I don't care. You know, do a good sit-up. Glute ham sit-up will definitely teach you how to do those a little bit better. It's a lot more force, a lot more load. The row, a lot of you guys are doing a good job just using the computer on the rowing machine to start to see, hey, if I pull this way, I produce way more force. How do you know? Because the numbers are going up on the machine. Who's noticed when I was screaming at you to get, hey, I need 1,700, all of a sudden, you do things slightly different because, hey, it's making the numbers go up. Well, that's going to be a more powerful pull, more efficient pull. Okay, so use the tools that are here, your coaches, and oftentimes those rowing machines can be your coach. They're going to give you feedback and let you know, am I doing things correctly or not? Because if the numbers are going up on the row, if it says you're burning more calories per hour, that means you're putting more force into that rowing machine on each pull. Got it? Good. I'm going to turn this fan back on. Good job today, team. Well done. And,